For Sanguinary Heresy, a Loyalist Night Lord. I got an Assault Intercessor body, but I gave him a Reaver head because, much like the Reavers, Night Lords are meant to have skull helmets. I chose one that had the top of the head exposed so I can show you how to paint Night Lord skin, and I sculpted him some hair. After a primer of gray, we cover all the armor of Night Blue by Vallejo, which is the perfect color for Night Lords. Painting the trim you want with Brassy Brass by Vallejo. Paint any area you want to be silver later, as well as the weapon's casings with black. You can also paint his hair with this, but not to blend into everything else, I just painted it with dark gray. Paint his face with pallied witch flesh by Citadel. The thing about the Night Lords is they're from a planet with no sun, so they're extremely pale, have dark hair, and black eyes. But also I got some basic skin tone by Vallejo, and I painted his purity seals with this, because even before Chaos, the Night Lords were really into skinning people, for like intimidation and shock. So really you could just take any Chaos model, scrape off the Chaos stars and stuff, and just have them as Loyalist. Paint the silver areas of Iron Warriors by Citadel. Then we paint lightning bolts on his armor, because the Night Lords are metal. I use Wolf Grey by Vallejo, you can also use Ulf 1 Grey. It's one of those things that seem kind of intimidating until you realize lightning is just kind of like jagged lines, so yeah. You don't have to be super thin and unnoticeable, but try to make them not super wide. And then I tinted them with Blue Tone by Army Painter, as well as shade recesses of the armor and his face. Paint some areas with Heavy Red by Vallejo. This includes if you're going to paint the logo, and the wax of the purity seals, and the eyes of the helmet if you had one on. Shade the brass with strong tone, shade the silver, black, and his hair with dark tone. Highlight the skull up to a pure white, shaded with Apothecary White. And then we add some blood for the blood god. And after a matte varnish, here he is. Now, how I would have the Night Lords and Konrad Kurz go loyal. Well, Kurz kind of starts out normal, plagued with visions of the future and a legion of mostly criminals, until one day the Emperor actually takes some time to talk to him, telling him that his visions of the future aren't entirely set, and they're only one vision of one future that can possibly happen, as well as the Emperor needs Konrad to be a symbol. A horrifying symbol to strike fear into the hearts of the criminal mind. A figure that can take down any enemy to the Imperium from the shadows.
When I took command of the Watch, you were stray mongrels. Starving and undisciplined. How? You're a pack of hounds. Crime of every breed has been allowed to thrive. No longer.
So Konrad committed desolation on both his legion and homeworld, along with new chaplains who is able to root out the crime that plagued Nostromo, so Konrad can actually have a legion he likes of people he can actually trust. After the massacre of Isfahan III and Isfahan V, much of the Imperium didn't actually know what was going on in the early stages of the Sanguinary Heresy, due to the survivors of Isfahan III being imprisoned by the Imperial Fist on the Phalanx. And before the survivors of the Dropside Massacre could tell everyone, the traitors took the opportunity to strike and even destroy Nostromo, just as Konrad was starting to not completely, totally hate the place. The traitors then tried to make their way to Olympia during its rebellion, but at this point the Loyalists found out what was going on and intercepted them on the traitorous Forge World in Caldeon. It was a long battle, but it was actually the first win the Loyalists took. And the Night Lords were actually able to capture Luther, one of the architects of the heresy, and Isfahan III. Now leaderless, the traitorous Dark Angels mostly scattered at this point. The Night Lords then launched the Thramas Crusade, seeking out and destroying the traitors' homeworld to try and draw them out of the heresy. The Night Lords became one of the big three legions at this time. During the Siege of Terror, Konrad was the first one to actually sneak into the palace, after a long, brutal battle just to get to the gates. Konrad, Malcador, and Horus teleported on the Red Tier to try and save the Emperor, but Konrad showed up too late. In the post-heresy world, Konrad still remained one of the big three, ending rebellions all over the Imperium, as the Iron Warriors had to fix everything. The Night Lords now have a mobile fortress monastery known as the Crypt. Konrad actually kinda liked the Codex Astartes and broke down his legion. to create more forces to hunt the traitors. And due to the Night Lords actually having extremely pure gene seed, they produced a lot of successor chapters. But eventually Konrad Kurz went MIA. During a raid by a White Scar War band, he decided, trying to hunt the traitor Primarchs in the Eye of Terror,